Hi, everyone. Welcome to our discussion on events that engage. Today, we'll be talking about what makes an event great, from preparation to attendee engagement. We'll also talk a bit about the trends you heard earlier from our CEO, Ruben Castaño. I'm Megan, the creative director at CNX, and Hi, everyone. Welcome to our discussion on events that engage. Today, we'll be talking about what makes an event great, from preparation to attendee engagement. We'll also talk a bit about the trends you heard earlier from our CEO, Ruben Castaño. I'm Megan, the creative director at CNX, and I'll be the moderator today. At any time, if you have questions, please use the Q&A box below. So let me introduce you to our event experts. First, we have Michela Noviello, Director of Brand Experiences at BizBash.
Hi, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here today and be a part of another CNX event. I actually just celebrated 1 year with BizBash, so very exciting. And I currently oversee all of our live, virtual, and on-demand events and experiences. My relationship with BizBash didn't start definitely that year ago when I joined the team. I have consumed BizBash content for years, really ever since I got my start in the industry, and it's really shaped me into the event professional I am today. And being able to work for the brand and with partners and event professionals that are so inspiring to our industry is really exciting. So I'm super excited to be here today, and thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And then we have Luiz Martins, our CMO at CNX.
Hey guys, I'm Luiz. As Megan said, we thought this session would be, you're probably tired of looking at slides. So no slides, just a conversation. Just as a way of introduction, I've been with CNX for 2 years. Prior to that, I was managing marketing at very large organizations, organizing events. And, as you can probably figure it out by looking at me, I've been around for a while. But the last 2 years, of course, when I joined CNX, it was prior to the pandemic, and no one was expecting what happened, right? So I learned more about events in the last 24, 26 months than I did in my 15 years of experience prior to that. So we wanted to put this session here to share some of that with you. That's the main reason why we put this event together, to share the experience that we have from the CNX but also bring folks like Michela, who I met back in September when we worked together to put a BizBash event. And it was just an amazing experience. It's not every day that you actually talk to someone who thinks high level on the event, but also thinks about the tactics to make the event reach the goals and objectives. So the minute I met her and we worked with her for 3 months, pretty much having meetings every week, it was very clear to me that I wanted to bring her to our customer event so that she could share her experience with us. And let me do a proper introduction for Megan. Megan and I have been working together since 2016. She is a very rare combination because she is an incredible marketer with a very talented and just an amazing graphic designer. Everything that you see in this environment went through her. Everything that you see from CNX that looks good, she did it. If it doesn't look good, it's because I probably told her to change something. But she is the rare combination because she is accomplished in a level that I very rarely had the opportunity to work with. But at the same time, she's very humble. So if you've been around marketing people for as long as I have, you know how rare that is. So Megan, thank you so much for agreeing to moderate this session with us. That was a long introduction. Sorry. Go ahead, Megan.
Great introduction, though.
Yeah. All right, let's get started. So putting on an event is a unique combination of marketing and event planning. Michela, what do you do? What do you find are those major differences between the two, and what do you need to keep in mind when you're putting on an event?
I think, event marketing and event planning are both extremely vital to the success of any event, and any event professional knows that. I think it's the decision of when to wear which hat or when to kind of enact which side of the brain. I think as event professionals, we so easily just become doers, and we want to just start to execute. And we go into the mindset of, okay, how do I make point A talk to point B and execute this event seamlessly? And I think we sometimes forget the important step of taking a step back, assessing your full situation, and asking yourself some important questions. What do I want to gain from this event? What do my partners want to gain? What does my audience want to gain? And who is that target audience? And how do I speak to each member of it differently? I think once you really can, get those key objectives together and develop your theme from there, that's when all of the preparation and planning and organization comes in. But it's so important to really start with that foundation, I think, and then to kind of put on the event planning cap a little bit later, while always keeping the event marketing cap in the background, so that you're always revisiting those objectives. I think one thing that I know my team can attest to that I do is I am always calling anybody on the BizBash team and saying, well, what do you think of this idea? How can we change it? How can we make it better? How can we, take this concept that we wrote about in BizBash a month ago and, create something from it and create a memorable experience? So there's so much power in numbers, and really relying on the people that, are your consumers, but also your team members. And I think that's how you really build that event success.
Yeah, all good points. Luiz, any thoughts?
I think, it's always hard to balance the objectives that we as an event producer sometimes have for an event and what the attendee wants to see. Sometimes they're not 100% aligned. So it's really difficult. So what you said, Michela, about knowing details about the demographics that you're serving, it does help you produce an event that at the same time drives to your goals, to your objectives, but addresses what me as an attendee would like to see as I attend an event. So that understanding is really, really important. The way, though, that we are planning about our events today have changed, right? You heard from Harry talking about how the whole industry has changed. If you haven't seen that presentation, it was the second presentation today. It's going to be on demand starting tomorrow for another month. You should definitely take the time to watch it. But one of the things that he mentions in there is that events are much longer. So like this event is going to be on for 30 days. So and this is something, especially as speakers, we're not prepared for this. So we say things like, good morning. You don't know when this person is going to watch that. It may be
Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, happy Wednesday, happy Friday, or this March. You keep saying things that date that content. So we, as speakers, we need to start telling our speakers, guys, this is going to last for a month or 6 months. Don't date yourself, because our brains, they turn off when they see that content is old, and it's small little tricks like this that make it last a long time.
Right.
The other thing is as you said, Michela, just building on that, creating an event is about creating memorable moments, right? I agree 100%. I was just prior to COVID, I was watching a virtual event, and this person was presenting at this beautiful conference room with a glass background, and then in the middle of her presentation, there was a birthday party, apparently a surprise birthday party in the back. That was pre-COVID. Everybody was at the office, and there was a cake and balloons and clapping on the background. And I never forgot this presentation. It's funny how this thing, I can't remember exactly what she was talking about, but I do remember the brand of that company. It just, for some reason, that just became a warm memory in my mind. To this date, I'm talking about it now. It just occurred to me. So that was a memorable moment that was created, not intentional, but it happened. Our jobs as we produce this, and I'm sure you all know, is to try to emulate a memorable moment that will drive the intention of your brand or your overall event. And the way you do that is just being very judicious about what is the journey that you want your attendees to take. When you figure that out, when you understand this is what I'd like my attendee to do, and this day and age, you think about 2-3 different types of personas. So one thing that really drives me crazy as a marketer is that we spend the entire day talking about this message is going to this persona. This the way we're going to craft this is for that persona, this vertical. But then when we come to do events, we forget about that. We just forget about personas, but we shouldn't, right? It's really aligning the event theme and the experience to the right personas you want to reach. And then I'll give you an example on this event that you guys are watching. We first talked about it in November. And originally it was going to be a customer summit for our customers only, one-day event, 4 hours. And then we started looking at the content that we had to share. And boy, did we have content. And we just said, it's going to be a very long event. We don't want to do a very long event because people don't like watching very long events. So let's break it into 2. Okay, but is this about our customers or are we going to invite others? Just do it an open event. Well, let's invite others. When we decided to invite others and make it a little bit different, a month and a half ago, maybe, Megan, that much? Right?
Yeah, maybe even
So,
less.
yeah, maybe even less. And so then it's what you said, Michela. What you do is, okay, we've made all these changes to events, to this particular event. How do we make sure that the journey that we thought for our attendees and the goals and objectives that we were trying to achieve by putting this event together are still valid? So what you do is we do exactly what you said. We have checkpoints. So we talk with our sales teams, we talk with our CS team, we talk with internally within the marketing team, with our speakers, and we align and make sure that this is still relevant and we're still targeting the same objectives that we had in the beginning. It's the nature of our event. And guys, don't let us speak don't leave us alone. Speak to us. We are seeing all the questions. You may not see them, but we see all the questions that you have on the chat. So please feel free to ask any questions. And it's a great way for us to see that you guys are out there not and paying attention and having fun. Please join us on this conversation.
All right. Well, talking more on the planner side, Michela, what does your process look like, and what do you find is essential to get started when planning an event?
I think every event is unique and you have to definitely approach every event in a unique way, but there definitely is that foundation. So, after that initial conceptualization and the ideation period, it's all about, okay, it's time to get to work. And a great event, like you said, Luiz, is going to happen just by using one mind or one team. You have to really enact the right partners and the right team members in order for event success. So there's so much thought that goes into every BizBash event, from our content team, from our sales team, from our trusted BizBash partners, in order to build a successful event concept and then hopefully execute a successful event. So I think from there, we love to be able to look through what every need of our event and then begin to map out the correct people and the correct teams to tackle each element. And like you said, Luiz, use that as a system of checks and balances so that we can always check back and make sure that we are keeping our goals in mind and our objectives. And, that's when we really do see success in events. And I think also those checkpoints allow us to question everything, which I'm a huge proponent of. Why do we do it this way? Why can't we do it this way instead? And like you said, why not question and change up the entire concept a month prior? I think that's where we really grow as event professionals. And I love that kind of collaboration. So I think it's really all about, building that team to start, and then all of the event execution really comes from there.
I think that's a great point, Michela. And if I could just make a couple of points here. So when we put an event together, the first thing that we do is talk about teams, right? So I mentioned to you that I've worked for very large organizations with very large teams, and I think we as marketers tend to keep the event like this is our thing. Let's not tell anyone about it, right? Let's just work internally, and we think it's a big miss. we have within our organizations people who understand really well, subject matter experts on whatever it is that we're going to be talking about it on that particular event. So bring them along, right? So they do help on the planning phase of that event. So look for people outside of your immediate team that can bring an expertise that you may need. I found that to be an extremely helpful way of, one, selling the event internally, right? The more people you get involved in the process, the better it is. But also to raise the bar, because if we're doing an event today about 6NX, about the event industry, about how to do an event, so we kind of get that a little bit. We're comfortable doing that, but we run events for so many different things. And wouldn't it be great to have a subject matter expert that helps us elevate the discussion, right? And typically you get that person or the people that you're bringing to help and support, and you get them to be responsible for a part of the event. So what we like to do here is assign them, like, you're responsible for this set of presentations. So there are 3 sessions. They're going to talk about that. You're responsible for getting them the template that they'll be using, making sure that the content, when it gets back, it's aligned with our goals and objectives, have a conversation with them prior to the event, and then bring everybody in to what you guys are doing. So that seems to work really well for us.
I think also, yeah, when your team members can really take ownership of each task, I think it's so important. We worked very closely with our sister company Connect on co-hosted events throughout the year, and we talk about this all the time in our internal meetings. There's no way for us to each be able to play every part and do everything. So we have this system set up of how we each can execute certain aspects in order to have the best attendee experience, and that's what we're all always looking for. And I think also, to your point, we really do build that connection when we immerse ourselves in our partners' branding and our partners' messaging as well. And so being able to really bring that into our event message is so important.
I think there's a question here, Megan, that I'd love to address. That I think there are a lot of great questions already, and there's one that I think it's on topic. From Matt, what are some strategies to create an event, to create events that feel natural when the sessions are consumed both live and on demand? I think that's a great question. So, you can differentiate from having very large, complex events. So here at 6NX, this event is a very small event. Typically, we run events that are in global scale. 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 50,000 attendees spread out globally. So what are the things that you can do to actually help that event, even if it is on demand, just to be consumed in a good way, right? So the first thing I would do is minimize the risk, right? So if you have sessions so we do a lot of events that have like a US time zone, European time zone, Asia Pacific time zone. So do one presentation and record it. And then if you want to add that sense of live, take that recorded session, play it. So a lot less risk doing that. But then at the end, you come live for Q&A. And pay attention to a few things that are important that sometimes we don't consider, like lighting, right? So if you're doing the session in LA in the morning and the session is going to be played over in Singapore at night, and then you come in at night to do the live piece, the lighting is going to be very different. Obviously, wear the same clothes, same hairdo, same makeup. That's the case. But if you're going to go through that, don't let people realize that part of the session was not live, right? Just make sure that you, as close as possible, emulate the same kind of look and feel that you had. So the session just goes very natural. I think it's also important to consider that on demand has a little bit of a different language, like I mentioned before, right? So avoid dating it. Don't say things like every March like this, and I heard this on this event already. Some people dating that content. I was thinking, oh no, we told you to pay attention to that, but it's just natural. So things like that really help for a very good shelf life of an event.
I totally agree with that point. You know, creating evergreen content that can appeal to global audiences is really what is going to take your event from something that is a 1 day or 3 days and, you know, make it into something that people can consume for an endless period of time.
And Michela, if I may ask you a question, right? You run events like we do for event producers. BizBash is always talking to people who run events for a living. Does that
No
add
pressure.
another? Yeah, I was going to say, how do you deal with that level of pressure, and how does that impact the way you organize and structure events?
You know, I think something that I've learned is that event producers, we don't always give ourselves a lot of grace, but we give each other a lot of grace. And I think that's so important. I think we all kind of know that things aren't always going to go right and things sometimes happen or mess up. And I think there is that a little bit of added pressure when you are working on events for event producers because you see everything. I mean, even when you go to an event, I can see every little mishap or anything from, you know, if I'm at a friend's wedding or a baby shower or anything like that. So I know that that's kind of the lens that our attendees look through, but I really realized that our audience is so kind and they really do understand that, you know, sometimes things may not go right or, you know, sometimes you're not going to always be perfect. And I think it's really amazing to be able to learn from our attendees as well and get their feedback and say, hey, you did this and we did this as well. Try this instead next time. And that's where we really grow as a brand and where we learn. You know, my goal every day is to bring the content that we produce online and in print live to our audience and be able to give them that live experience. So I think there is a lot of grace. You forget about it when you're in the weeds, but that's how I try to keep myself as calm as possible.
And on that point, we know that events rarely go as exactly as planned. What are some of those hiccups that you talking about and where you needed to give yourself grace in those situations? And what did you take from those experiences?
Yeah, I think, you know, something is always going to go wrong. And what I try to look at it as is this isn't something that's going wrong. This is something that I'm going to learn from. You tend to learn more from things that necessarily didn't go right than things that did go right. I think that's where you really grow as an event professional. That's where you can grow as an organization. The BizBash president, Matt Johnson, he always tells me, and I have a sticky note on my desk that says it, never let perfection stand in the way of progress. And I think that that is something that's really important to remember in our field and just to remember everything perfect and there's always a chance to learn. But also I think the most important thing is don't be afraid to rely on your partners and on the people that you're working on this event with. I've had, you know, many an oops moment where I get on site and I've forgotten something or I didn't check a box that needed to be checked. And instead of trying to fix it myself, I said, well, who do I know, you know, throughout this event team that can fix it and has a solution and might see this from a different perspective, and pick up the phone and call them and be vulnerable and then take that experience and learn from it. And I think one thing that I've noticed is if you do something not completely right, you'll probably never do it again.
That's you're absolutely right, Michela. What you guys don't know is that we had a pre-call just before coming in here, and she dropped her ring light. But I'm not going to share this with anybody.
Exactly. As soon as we came in here, exactly. And that's why my lighting is not great. But right before we went live, my ring light went out. So sorry about that, but things happen. That is show business.
That is very true. So we know that, right? If you've done events for as long, too bad I can't see the audience because I'd love to have raise your hands if you have an event that everything went perfect, right? I don't think anyone would raise their hand. One of the things that we do here is we always have a plan B, right? When we just did physical events, people didn't show up because flights got canceled. Remember that? Now people don't show up because they don't have Wi-Fi or the power went down and all this good stuff, right? So we always have a plan B. I'm going to let you in a little secret, right? I have a deck ready for a half-hour presentation just in case something goes wrong, and we have to fill in a bracket of time that something happened to one of the speakers. I shouldn't have said that, because now if you guys see me going in, you know something went wrong, right? But now you know.
That's brilliant. That's a great strategy. I'm going to have to take that back to our team. See, we learn every day as event professionals. That's another really great point, is you learn much from the people that you work with.
And we always try to do that, right? We have a backup presentation, and we just tailored the majority of this event. You notice that there are 30-minute slots to make it interesting. And this one, because just interesting people in this conversation, we made it a little longer, and because we're expecting to have a conversation, like we're seeing all the questions here. Hopefully we'll have time to address that. The other thing we do is we just test the heck out of it, right? You test and you test and you test and you test and you test, and still something will probably go wrong at the worst possible time. But don't underestimate the need to just test stuff, right? If it's a mic on location, if it's catering, just make sure that they're local. So the basics, right? That we do. In our case, it's about making sure that Michela knows what the link is, and we have plenty of time to come in earlier to practice and see where we're going to see the questions and all that good stuff. So it's part of making an event successful, is taking the time to test.
100%. I'm a big proponent of rehearsals and bringing all of my speakers in very early. And I always tell them, I'm like, we're going to test things out. We're going to see how they work. And then you can turn your cameras off and go back about your days. And then we'll bring you back in 10 minutes before.
Yeah. And I would say even testing like the other aspects, like our whole team was in our environment yesterday, going through every little link, every little click action, just making sure everything worked, and came up with a list of things we needed to fix right beforehand. It's, it never ends. So
always a system of checks and balances. That's the way to succeed.
Absolutely. So going back to the marketing side of things, Luiz, though, you talked about those main goals and objectives to keep those in focus. How do you accomplish this when it comes to promotion and registration?
So I think I've mentioned a little bit about targeting the personas you're going after, right? So you dream of an event. It takes forever to come up with a name. Like CNX, Megan, how long did we discuss this? And we finally came up with a name for this. And it's really about the emotion we wanted you guys to leave. When you leave this event, we want you to be thinking about, how can I make an event experience a little bit different? How can I create an event experience that is somewhat new and innovative, right? So that's why we came up with this name. But I think coming up with the right name that speaks to the audience, so understanding who you're talking to, who you want to bring to your event, I think that's the first thing you do, right? If you figure that out, promotion is going to come a little easier. And then obviously understanding where does your audience consume content, right? And then pushing that out. And I know that BizBash does this in a masterful way. So I've learned a lot just by harassing and understanding what working with Michela. They do a wonderful job of promoting. So Michela, just walk us through, what do you guys do to promote your event?
That's very kind, and it definitely takes a huge team. We couldn't do anything that we do without our content team and our marketing team. Really, I think one thing that we really have tried to do, at least over this last year, is rely on the data. Rely on the data from past events, what people are saying about events. You can really understand so much from your audience and your attendees by the questions you ask. And at the end of the day, BizBash is all about connecting people. It's all about bringing people together to create better events, to idea share. So being able to start that process in your event registration or your event promotion in order to find out key information about people that's going to be able to connect them with each other and bring them together virtually or even on site. It really helps us be able to not only understand our attendees, but help our attendees understand each other. I think from there, really is about tailoring your messaging to fit those specific needs of your attendees. So, you know, I think we try so hard to help our audience build their own path to an event experience that they really want to accomplish, and that fits their specific ROI. And I think that's, the idea of working with that macro environment versus the micro environment, keeping the event theme always in mind, but always, working with your specific attendees to make sure that their goals are accomplished at the end of the event so that you can get them to come back the next time and even learn more and collaborate more, and you can learn from them. And we couldn't do this all on our own. We have great partners that have the right technology that allows us to connect people. And I think that is just, it's so important to really understand who those attendees are.
Great. So that's a good segue into what do you consider a successful event?
I think this has definitely changed over, the last 2 years. I won't say things like pivot and things like that. Well, I just did those cliche terms, but I think, indicators of success obviously chatter. What are people saying? What are their honest statements about their experience? I think we've really adapted influencer culture within, how we choose to buy things, how we choose to go on different vacations, what cars we drive. And so utilizing our audience and being able to give them the power to become our influencers and share our messaging is something that we found really powerful. And it's something that we want for, our attendees to give honest feedback and tell us and tell their audience, this is what, was done right. This is what we would change if we could. I think that really is how you continue to create meaningful experiences. I think another thing is there's so many events and and as event professionals, we are so busy. I mean, who here, and I know I can't see the audience, but if I could, who here spends more time in an airport than your own home for some months? So it's, why should I attend? Why should I take the time, out of my busy schedule? And why should I make a choice to go to this conference or consume this content? And really telling that story, telling the story from what people think of our past events, or maybe it's a sizzle video, or a look back at what our education is going to look like. I think that that storytelling piece is so important when it comes to how you market your events for the future and kind of create that network of professionals that are going to want to come back and connect with each other.
A great point. We all have KPIs, right? So when we planned this event, we had our KPIs. We figured out number of attendees we wanted. We wanted to focus on the leads that we are able to generate from this event. Of course, right? This is our bread and butter. We're marketers, so yeah. If you're here, you're probably going to be marketed to. We wanted to make sure that you attended the sessions, you consume the content, you interact with one another, and this is all data that a platform like ours provides us, right? So at the end of this event, we'll be able to really look at our KPIs and say, yeah, we hit this, we hit this, we hit this. These are important, right? So it helps us plan and execute to certain goals. But I think what's more important is if we think back, when on the beginning of my career, that we ran events, and I worked for a very large organization that shall remain nameless, and we did events that we had $1 million for one single event, and we had these huge booths in Las Vegas for a 4-day event. And when we looked at what is the ROI, what is it that we're trying to accomplish, and very honestly, it was like happy faces. If our executive team was like, well done, good job. If our customers were like, this is great, I love the event, I love your booth, we were all happy. No metrics whatsoever, right? And I think that has evolved. If you read about ROI on events, you will find a ton of materials out there, but very few are applicable. What we're now talking about is return on engagement, right? So the engagements that you are able to provide, especially because the content that we produce on a event, it's no longer like this live day and we're done. It's actually how many times are we able to leverage this session that we're going through here and engage through time, right? Don't be fooled. We're going to take bits and pieces of this. It's going to be in our social media. We're going to be measuring the engagement that we generate from this piece of content here, and really identifying the return on the engagement that we have on a particular session, on a particular piece of video that we have on the environment. That's, I think, what's different, right? But I guess just to finish up, for us, the real measure of success is that when we run an event, we drive the right emotion, that when we run the next event, you guys that are here attending this session, attending this event, come back. So we do cross-reference that information. We do about 12 webinars a year, and just this one customer event, but we have a lot of other events in between, and we cross-reference that data, and that tells us, we're going on the right track, because 30% of the people who came and attended this event went to our next webinar. So this event was good. Or only 10% attended. That event wasn't good. So this is one way that we really track return on engagement.
I think to that point too, that is how you can conceptualize your themes as well. You look at those metrics and see, okay, well, out of those 12 virtual events, which ones had the most engagement? Which ones had the least? What topics were people the most interested in hearing about? And I think that is really where you can, give the ideas to create the themes. Because I think we go through so many different theme ideas for sessions and topics and things like that. And there's so many things that we can talk about, but what does our audience really want to hear? And the data from past events is how we're going to understand that moving forward and how we're going to build stronger events in the future.
So Michela, we worked together a few months ago on the BizBash Top 100 events in North America. It was such a fun event for me and my team. It was really fun for the 6Connects team to be as creative as we want and kind of bring whatever ideas we wanted to the table. What was the experience like for you?
I mean, it was honestly absolutely phenomenal. And I think, there were a few things that really stood out to me. Like I said, like you guys, we do 12 virtual events a year, 2 to 3 live events a year. We have all of these other things sprinkled in. So it's easy sometimes to not, feel as prepared as you're going into your next event. And I think being able to work with your team and seeing that preparation and the steps that you guys took to ensure that we were ready and that we could really build this event and bring it to life, and be able to really give the content in this live format, rather than just people reading it online. They were able to really hear from these people and learn from them and network. I think also there was just so much thought leadership from your team, which was really awesome, being able to say, hey, I have this idea. And you guys were like, well, why don't we do this instead? And let's do this to make it better. And it was so cool because nobody knows your brand and your platform better than you do. So being able to get on a call weekly with your team, and there was always a yes and never a no. It was always a, well, we could do this and we could do it this way too. And I mean, I'm not sure if anybody in the audience attended that event, but the platform was just so phenomenal. And the way that you really took, this editorial piece and created this whole experience around it, and worked with us and our speakers was just it was a really great experience for us. And we hope to be able to do it again soon.
So do we, Michela. Yeah, and let me just say that one of the challenges that we have is that our platform can be anything to anyone. So because it's extremely flexible, when we have event experts that come to us with a very clear direction, we go like, "Thank you so much. It's so good to work with you." And that's what you brought to the table. I mean, your entire team knew exactly what you were trying to accomplish. Your lineup was great. So you had this is what I want to do. How do you do this with your platform? So that was very easy for us.
Exactly. I think that there was the perfect amount of collaboration, and it really spoke for the content. It was a really great experience to be able to, you said one of the things about our platform, and I think that's one of the great opportunities about your platform, is you can make it whatever you want. There is so many different ways to create different types of attendee experiences based on your objectives and goals. So I think that was one of my favorite parts. Is I said, well, these are the goals, these are the objectives, this is what our audience typically likes, this is what our content's going to look like. And then you just built this phenomenal platform. And I remember that after we did the demo, I called some of my team members and I said, you guys have to see this. This is amazing. You have to take a look through this. It's not open yet to the public, but I'm going to show you here. And it was a really cool experience. So very much enjoyed.
Us too, really. So let's talk a little bit about the trends we heard earlier from Ruben. Physical events are back on the rise, as we all know, and at the same time, customers are investing in virtual more than ever. What does this mean for how we produce events?
I think that, people are ready to connect again. And that's definitely, something that everybody in the industry knows, and they're ready to connect in new ways. But the element of virtual isn't going anywhere. And that's because we have now adapted to this model of being able to connect with people in the ways that work best for us and consume content in the ways that work best for us. It's not about, okay, if I can't be at this event for these 2 days in this one specific place, then I'll never be able to connect with the people that attended, or, watch the education, or, attend any of the events that are related to it. You can actually be able to attend that event and be a part of the experience without physically being there in that one place one time. And I think that's what is so important. I think another thing is we're seeing, so much ROI and, great data from the virtual component of events. And that's going to continue on throughout, the future of events. I think we really look at events differently now that we can see so many things about how attendees consume content. Like, a few years ago, if you're sitting in an education session, it went well if people are smiling or not. But if you're, and you're not really getting their comments or things like that, but if you're watching something, you can go back and read all of the questions, all of the comments, how many exact people were sitting in one session at one time, who went back and viewed, who saved, documents, things like that. That stuff is so important in order to accelerate your event for the future, and really, continue to produce really solid events. So the idea that, virtual is going, we kind of, I think, got accelerated into virtual, of course, over the last 2 years, but it's always been around and it's just going to keep growing from here.
I agree with that. Our CTO, Harrington, has this thing about it's not about doing an event physical, virtual, or hybrid. By the way, I hate this hybrid thing. We've been doing this for a while, right? We've seen that we do. How do we buy? How do we register for events? We've been registering online forever. We've been buying our airfares, our tickets online forever. We've been, getting our hotels online forever. We've been just growing on the online component, the virtual component. So we've always done hybrid for the last 20 years. So, and I hate that the industry just picked that term up and just ran with it. But then at the end of the day, what's happened is that just like the way we work, we're running events differently. We're working a little bit differently. We're very comfortable working like this. We spend our entire day, and I'm in Brazil, by the way. I spend my whole day in Chicago with Megan, or in San Antonio with Ruben, or in London with Joachim. Our team members are all over the world, and we don't really need to be in person. Events have that component now. We just need to be smart about it when we think about our entire strategy of events. So we may want to do a physical event, but it's just, I don't think people could imagine that I'm attending a session today. If I am not there live, I will never be able to see that content ever again. I mean, it's just crazy to think that that content is not going to be available for me on demand.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing as, years ago, if you wanted to watch a specific TV show, you had to be sitting in front of your TV at a certain time and you couldn't miss anything. And now it's like, we have the idea of Netflix and all of these on demand. So why can't you, consume content for your own educational development and career development the same way that you would at leisure? I think that it's so important to be able to give that opportunity to an industry that is so busy and has so many different things going on. If I missed this session today, but I wanted to go back and watch it in 3 days when I'm cooking dinner or, finishing up something for work, I think that that's really important. It's important to meet your audience where they're at, and make it so that it's something that is evergreen and can live on.
And that impacts not only that event, that one single event strategy, right? It just impacts the entire communication strategy. So you will do events that are like this, a 2-day event with a few more people attending, and then you do a physical event. You may want to do a road show because you're going after Central Europe, and you want to have an event in Germany, for instance. And that's a physical event with some virtual components to it. And then you do another event that is fully virtual, but smaller scale for a certain segment. So I think that's what has effectively changed in our jobs of organizing and structuring events. Is we have a lot more possibilities, and we have to think through the entire set of our events as opposed to thinking of one.
Right. And there's so much more opportunity for, community and engagement when you do think that way, because you're not just creating these one-off experiences, you're creating a massive experience that has a little something for everyone throughout.
You guys touched upon the other trend that we were going to talk about, which is that year-round engagement, just having community and, being able to go on demand all year. But we have only around 12 minutes left, so I'm going to ask some of the questions from the audience, if that's cool with you guys. One is, is there an ideal amount of content for these events that you produce?
I think for us, it's really understanding what type of content our audience is most interested in and creating buckets. So, the event industry has so many different segments you can go into, but what are the buckets of education and content you want to produce? I think there's definitely that fine line between just a little bit of too much and the perfect amount. So, I think, I would say when we do, an on-demand library of content, we try to stick from anywhere from 10 to 15 sessions to get more granular. And then, bringing in the live component, we try to bring in at least, I would say 6 full hours of live education that can then live on and be consumed as on-demand content. So I think just kind of finding that balance and then being able to work in other elements so that people aren't just sitting and consuming content. I think, just like you can't sit in a meeting all day, you need to be able to move and to be able to experience other things. So bringing in networking, bringing in, workshop, that kind of idea, letting people join as it's like a town hall kind of discussion. I think that's kind of the way that you can organize your content so that it is really impactful.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's not about volume of content. It's just making sure that you diversify the type of content. So video content works really well for some people, most people, I would say. But there are some people who actually like to read, and you got to give them brochures if you're marketing a product or a service. So varying that and then letting them kind of relax on the same event. We have a DJ on the front end. I hope you enjoyed that. I had a good time with that. We have another DJ session at the end of this. I thought that was great. So it's really about diversifying the content, the types of delivery of that content that makes an impact, I think.
You know, something we work with an amazing production company, Akiri Productions, and something our executive producer Erica always tells me is we have to try to figure out what kind of learners people are. We have to ask them that question, and it really is so important. How do you like to consume content? How do you like to learn? And so, that's something that I think is really important, going into your registration, or even just maybe it's pre-networking questions or things like that. What is that, what type of learner are you? What will you enjoy the most within the content? And so do you want to read something on your own? Do you want to watch a video? If you do watch a video, do you want it to be a 10-minute TED Talk style or a 45-minute panel? That way there's a little something for everyone.
Great. You both touched on data a lot on this session and how we're just gaining it in different ways now. How is this new data helping exhibitors, and how do you tailor it for your next event? And then additionally, do you have any go-to questions that you use to gain this data?
Yeah. Do you want me to take this one first? Or Luiz? I feel like I've gone first a lot. I want to. I think, that data is so important to your exhibitors, and gone is the time of, oh, I got so-and-so's business card, but I lost it and now I have no way to contact them, or I can't seem to find them on LinkedIn, because there is the ability to allow your attendees and your exhibitors to connect virtually, whether it's through a platform or an app, or, through pre-communication and messaging. So I think that that's really important, but it also, we use that data in a larger sense to be able to tell our exhibitors and our sponsors, well, this is our audience demographic. This is what we're looking at. These are the people that historically have attended this event in the past. This is how it's kind of shaping up for this year, so that they can, use that to kind of tailor their messaging and what they are exhibiting and showcasing to go well with our attendees. We see a lot of time, we do a few large trade shows a year. Well, these are the booths that always get a lot of attendance, and this is why. And so being able to even build upon that in a data sense, and ask our attendees questions. I love to ask the registration question of, what are you most excited about for this event? Are you excited about networking, building new business, education? And sometimes we'll throw in like a really fun one, like we're heading to Puerto Rico in May, so going to the beach when we're finished with sessions. So I think that's another big thing about it, is when it goes into questions, you want to ask the important things, but you also kind of want to get to know your audience and have a fun, upbeat voice. We just recently did an education session with our sister company Connect in New York, and the BizBash founder, David Adler, goes, why don't we ask every attendee what their dog's name is? And I was like, why don't we? That's a great idea. And then we actually utilized that content while we were in the session, and it made people feel like they were a part of something, and like they were able to, connect with each other and understand it. And they saw, oh, that's my dog's name, or, that kind of thing. And then people are sharing photos of their dogs with each other and talking and stuff. And so I think, while yes, we need to have that really important, information about people so that we can make sure that their event experience is exactly what they need it to be, it's also important to be able to find fun ways to connect people and work that into your marketing.
That's
kind of just
great.
like a surprise and unexpected.
By the way, this is Elvis.
Oh,
My dog.
Golden as well.
Yeah.
She's currently locked up, because if she was over here, she'd want to be right on camera with us.
I think you nailed it, right? The combination of questions had actually two components. One is data, right? What do you do with data? So fortunately, we have our platform, and we integrate this into our HubSpot, and the level of and the granularity of data that we can drive from our event is just, you cannot replicate this on a physical event. It's very challenging to do, right? We know the questions you ask, we know who you talk to. It's we're big brothering you So I'm leaving this to the very end so you guys are comfortable until now. But that's what virtual platforms do, right? They are able to track every detail of the event and then pass that data, filter it, and just take it straight into our HubSpot so that we can market to the folks that we feel like are the right folks to do. And when you said, and the question was, what do you do with exhibitors, right? When we migrated to virtual, exhibitors struggled because they had the culture of actually attending physical events, getting together, buying their customers a beer, taking them to dinner, wine and dine them, and close deals right there and then. And when we migrated to virtual back in 2020, the commerce piece, I don't think it was as advanced as it is now, or it will be a year from now, which is another trend that Ruben mentioned. The commerce is actually making its way into events with a very strong portion of why you're running events, just bringing that commerce into the actual platform. And I think that combination of data, sponsors showing products and services, and then taking that journey to commerce is going to be very powerful in the future. So for those of you who have had or worked with exhibitors that dismiss the virtual component, I think they'll come back as soon as that journey, and that you can walk them through a journey that says, this is how you connect with people, this is the data you gather from them, and this is the journey you take them to commerce. I think once you do that, they'll be back in a very, very strong way.
100%. I think we're already seeing that trend now. It's data doesn't lie. And as event organizers, it's so important to gather that data and be able to show that to, our sponsors and our exhibitors, because they can really see that ROI, and it's very granular. It's right there, rather than it's, something that maybe it went well, maybe it didn't, you're not really sure. So there's a lot of power in that data.
True. Hey, we have about 4 minutes left, Michela, and you mentioned Puerto Rico. You want to tell us about what's going on in Puerto Rico in May?
Yeah, sure. So BizBash is heading to Puerto Rico in May with our sister company Connect for Connect Spring Marketplace. So we will actually be BizBash live in Puerto Rico. We are so excited for this event. And I think as we're planning, what's one of the most exciting things is we really are trying to create a little something for everyone. So this is the inaugural rollout of BizBash one-on-one appointments. So our biggest goal with this event and with all of our events is to connect event planners with, our partners and our event suppliers. So giving the opportunity for, vetted event professionals that are really looking to, make lasting connections and create business and be able to meet and book business with vetted event suppliers is something we're really excited to see for our audience and watch create. And we all get so excited every time we have, somebody new sign up, and we can kind of understand, what their goals are and what their objectives are and how we can best match them with, the partners that are going to be able to bring their initiatives to life. I think also something that's exciting about it is the events industry is booming and we are all so busy. And so we have this really awesome virtual component. So if you can't, make it to Puerto Rico, whether you have a personal engagement or you can't, travel or anything like that, you don't have to miss out on the content. You can join us virtually, you can network virtually, but it's going to be a really great 2 days of content. And I think the best part about it is it's going to live on past those 2 days. So we're already kind of ramping up with getting all of our audience connected with each other and excited for the event. And then, post-event, we're going to be able to really see how people consume that content evergreen and not necessarily just over those 2 days. So it's going to be really great. It is May 22nd through the 24th. So we're excited. And I know that 6CNX will be in attendance. So I'm excited to actually meet you guys in person. That'll be really fun. I feel like I already know you so well, but it's going to be a really amazing event.
We're looking forward to it, especially now that we know we're going to the beach after the event.
Exactly. I will say it's a beautiful location too. I was there in January for a site visit, just exploring all the things that our attendees will get to experience. And I definitely did not want to leave and head back to cold, rainy Atlanta, but excited to go back.
Very cool.
Well, all right, we have to wrap up. Thank you so much, Michela and Luiz. This was a great discussion about event planning, and we enjoyed getting an inside look at BizBash and how they do things. We still have more happening at 6Connects today. Head to the lounge and you can choose from 2 networking sessions, ROE, Return on Engagement with Charlie Litchfield from Touch Associates, and Navigating Hybrid Events with Sabina Bonici. She's from vStream Health. So we hope to see you all there, and thanks for joining.